Hello neighbor, this is Curt with eTrailer, and today we're going to take a look at the Benton Shifts and Grins 2-bike platform rack on our 2022 Hyundai Santa Fe, and we're going to see just how they interact with each other. Now, if you've watched this video and you've got some questions about the Benton Shifts and Grins, or maybe you've purchased this and you've got some stories to share, just go ahead and leave those in the comments below. We love to take those, share them with our other neighbors, and help them make the best decisions for themselves. So if you've been on the hunt for a 2-bike platform rack for the hitch of your Santa Fe that is really versatile, it can hold a variety of bikes, different shapes and sizes, you can mount it some different ways, and it can hold up to 55 pounds for some of those lighter weight e-bikes, I think the Benton Shifts and Grins is an excellent place to start. As far as how it interacts with the Hyundai Santa Fe though, we put a bike on here that does have a rather large frame. It's got wider pedals and it's got 14-inch handlebars. And as you can see, even on a really rocky terrain or bumpy road or anything like that, we're really not in any danger of the handlebars hitting our rear windshield or the pedals coming up against the bumper or the license plate. But with all that being said, like any platform bike rack, there are going to be a few things that get obscured while you're driving around with your bike on it. So the taillights are going to be partially obscured. That's sort of to be expected with a rack like this. The rack does put the bike up into the rear window, so you're going to have a little bit of visibility issue looking out of the back. But also you're going to have a little bit of visibility issues coming out of your rear view camera right here. So with that being said, it's a really good idea to know just what kind of footprint this is leaving behind the vehicle. So from the bumper, the furthest point of the bike rack, which is really the end of this button right here, is about 31 inches. So you got a little over 2.5 feet back here that you need to account for whenever you're backing into a tighter space or trying to parallel park. The other thing we always want to take a look at is what kind of ground clearance do you have? Well, the ground clearance here is 17.5 inches. It can get as low as 10.5 inches coming here out of the shank. So you just want to keep that in mind when you come up against any of those steeper driveways or inclines while you're driving around with the bike rack. Another measurement that you're going to want is going to be how high are the wheel cups. And I say this because there really isn't a ramp system for this bike rack. So if you have one of those heavier 50, 55 pound e-bikes, we want to make sure that you're comfortable with lifting it this high. So the wheel cups are going to be just a hair under 21 inches. So just bear that in mind if you do have one of those heavier bikes. Now, one of the biggest questions that people often have about a bike rack is, will I have access to my lift gate if I have a bike loaded on the rack? And in the case of the Shifts and Grins, you will. So in order to lower it away, what we're going to need to do is just brace our bike up here. You always want to do that, make sure it doesn't drop too quickly. We're going to depress this button right here, and then we're going to just lower it away from our lift gate there. Once we've done that, we can see that we are going to have full access in and out of our lift gate. Now we can get in and out of here. We could get our equipment, our water, our helmet, sit down, change our shoes, anything we really need to do in between rides. Or if you're somebody that kind of likes to go on spontaneous rides, you can hit the store. Even if your bike's loaded up, you know you can have access to your lift gate here. And when it's ready to go back into its upright position, if you're ready to drive, all you really need to do is, once again, I always like to brace the bike, and then we'll lift up on this and it'll click right into place. So I mentioned a little bit ago that the versatility of this bike rack, a lot of it really comes from the fact that it could be either wheel or frame mounted. So if you have a frame that is carbon fiber or custom paint job, you would opt for a wheel mount if that was the case. And frankly, even if you don't, wheel mounted is generally the most popular way to do it. However, if you have a bike with fenders, that's not really an option. So if we're going to change how this is mounted, we could do that by depressing the button on our hook here, lifting it up and off of the post. We'll move the post under the handlebars, and we'll just simply clamp it back down here on the frame. Now, in the case of removing the bike and loading it, those are actually really easy processes as well. There are 2 different wheel straps on the Benton Shifts and Grins, each of them padded to protect your wheels. In order to get these off, we're just simply going to depress this, feed that through there and out of the way. We're going to do the same thing over here on the front wheel. depress that tab, feed that through the spokes and out of the way. Now we're just gonna grab hold of our bike. We're gonna lift the hook all the way to the top of the post, clear the wheel, and now we're able to lift it off. We can either hit the trail or store it, whatever we have in mind. So with the bike removed, you might wonder, like, you know, how do we handle that when we want to drive around without the bike? Because to tell you the truth, this bike rack weighs about 63.5 pounds. It's probably not something you're going to want to take out and put back in every time just because you want to go for a bike ride that day. Luckily, it does have a stowaway position. We're going to use that same button right here, but instead of lowering it, we're going to go ahead and raise it into its upright position just like this. Now we've significantly reduced that footprint behind the vehicle. In fact, if you remember, we were at 32 inches with it deployed. We've cut that down to a little under 17 inches, so pretty much almost just in half. But now you're still going to have this in the back and you still want to be aware of it. However, we're going to have much more visibility now out of the back window. We're going to get better visibility out of our rear view camera, and our taillights and license plate are also completely in the clear, just to make sure everything's safe for the other drivers out there. So with all that said, its ease of use, the versatility that it has, I think this is an excellent choice for you and your Hyundai Santa Fe. I'm Curt with eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.